seeing us live. We're coming to you from our new studio. I love saying that. That's so funny. Anyway, we're on tonight. It's going to be a crazy night. We finally got internet connected today, and it's just been a crazy, crazy day for me. You're going to hear some noise in the background for a little bit. We're still getting some stuff moved around and getting settled in the new place. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the show tonight. We've got Brandy Herr on. She is now going to be an infamous author. I love it. She has written a book called Haunted Granbury, and so we're going to talk about that tonight. You guys can't get it just yet because the book release isn't until this weekend, but you guys need to be looking for this book. So, Brandy, how you been? Is she having a hard time hearing me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're breaking up there. So.
I don't know if it's my connection.
Okay. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? So you excited about this?
Busy, but that's good.
I hear you. I hear you. You getting a little nervous yet?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you are. How many shows have you done this week already to start pushing your book?
This week, you're the first one. I did one last week before. It was a radio show, but you're my first one this week. And then, I did an actual, the local radio this morning. But.
Well, and I saw you did a little tidbit. Was it with one of the Granbury?
Yeah. It's a Granbury TV. It's the local Granbury channel here.
I was thinking it was like a Chamber of Commerce or something like that for some reason.
It's kind of like that, but I mean, it's for all all of Granbury. They have people come in, they can promote their things, and then it also broadcasts sports games and city council meetings and stuff like that.
Boring stuff. Nothing's as exciting as what you've got going on. So, what does everybody think about in Granbury about this book that's coming out?
They seem pretty excited. Pretty much everyone we've told about it has been really happy about it, and I keep saying that if I already started selling the books to people that wanted to buy them now before the book signing, I would probably not really have any left for the book signing.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Crazy. So, tell us a little bit about the book, and I know you've been working on it for a while now. Some stories together and all that. Kind of take us back to the beginning and tell us how this got started.
Okay. Well, this is the book right here, Haunted Granbury. And then the back cover there. And then the inside, a little sneak peek for you. But
too fast.
Well, you got to buy it to look at it closer. Well, I'm the co-founder of the Granbury Ghosts and Legends tour, and I'd been wanting to write a book for a while. Even when we first started, I wanted to, but just kind of put it off, busy doing other things. And then I found a little advertisement for another publisher saying that they were looking for people to write ghost stories, ghost books about their community. So I sent them right. So I sent them an email, all excited, and they write back going, Granbury's just not a good enough market to do a book for. We had someone pitch it before, and they turned it down. And I said, well, no, we may be a small town, but not only are we a close-knit town, but we're right here by the DFW Metroplex. And, with me running the tours, I have people coming all over the state, all over the country. I've had people all over the world come on the tours. And so she writes back, oh, well, you can go ahead and write up a proposal, and we'll try pitching it to them, but he's probably going to say no. And so I was going to write a proposal, but kind of got discouraged, got busy. And then about a month later, the History Press, another publisher, contacts me just out of the blue, says, hello, would you like to write a book about the Ghosts of Granbury? So I said, okay, great, yeah. And I still had to do the proposal, make it formal, make sure, they approved it. But, it went through, and it turns out, from what I understand, this is actually a better publisher than the one I originally approached. Because this one does a lot more promotions, does a really great book, so, they're a loss, I guess. But I'm really happy with it, and the History Press has been really great to me, helped me work through with getting the pictures, and they've done a really great formatting job. They're the ones that actually put together this cover. I took the picture of the courthouse, actually, but they're the ones that stylized it.
So they did all that for you.
They did, yeah. I just submitted, it was just a regular picture of the courthouse that, taken during the day, just, that I submitted to them. And then they're the ones, they made the little light there, they stylized the whole thing. And then I submitted this picture right here with the angel. This was taken by Mary Vinson of the Hood County News. She was kind enough to let me use this picture because I love it. It's just perfect. It's taken from the cemetery with a view of the courthouse. And then I also took this picture of the Nut House Hotel. And then again, they just formatted it all. So, they did all the great stylizations, and they've been a really great company to work with.
That's awesome. And then I noticed you've been about your press packages. They did a lot of your signs and your shirts and stuff like that too.
This shirt I actually got made, but because they gave me permission to use the book cover on promotional stuff, so of course I have to plaster it on everything I own now.
Oh, exactly. Right. You should be able to use it on what you want.
Right. So yeah, I got to be a walking billboard everywhere I go now. But yeah, they did do the posters, and they pretty much provide me with posters whenever I need it. 2 really great posters. One says "Now Available," one says "Meet the Author." And then they made really great postcards to pass out to people that are interested in selling the books, and has contact information for the publisher. The publisher has been diligently contacting stores trying to set me up with book signings. She just got me in with the History, Haunts, and Legends in Jefferson, so I'm confirmed with that now. And so, it's been really great. I'm not used to having a marketing team behind me. I'm used to doing it, I'm a PR writer. I'm used to doing it all by myself, so whenever I actually have someone that they're writing the press release for me and they're doing it, I'm thinking, wow, someone's actually, I've got a team working with me.
You get to take a break.
Yeah. Well, I'm still hard at work, pushing it. I can't sit back, but...
Yeah. But you don't have to worry about it so much. You got some help and hands now.
And it helps that I also have people that have different contacts than I do and different tactics, so they can get in places that I necessarily couldn't just by saying, hey, how you doing? Can I do this?
Can I see this book here?
Yeah.
So you've got the book release party coming up this weekend. And what do you have planned? Are you going to start sitting in some bookstores and selling your book and making some autographs in it? What do you do?
Oh, Lordy, I've got plenty. Well, the book release is this Saturday from 6 to 9 at the Langdon Center, which is my favorite haunted location on the square. Maybe the ghost of little Audrey Gordon will be in attendance. And that will actually kick off a month-long Haunted Granbury photo exhibit featuring photographs of possible ghostly apparitions taken from around town by visitors, local, from old-bodied apparitions. The exhibit will run until books Saturday. That'll be running just to generate interest, and people love seeing the different things. People love seeing those pictures. And then I'll be at Weird Text Fest on March 22nd. I'll be doing a speech at, I think, 1:30, and then I'll be signing the books all day as well. I'm going to be setting up a booth signing books at the Texas Independence Day celebration on March 1st and 2nd here on the square in Granbury. Let's see, on March 15th, I'm getting backtracked. On March 15th, I'm going to be participating in a authors panel signing event at the Parks Mall Barnes & Noble in Arlington, along with several other authors of varying genres. It's not just paranormal stuff. And be doing, it'll be from 10 to 4 speeches throughout the day. I believe I'm at 11, but that's not set in stone yet, so keep track on my Facebook page and I'll keep updated. But then I'll be signing throughout the day, and that is actually a fundraiser for the Mansfield Library. So a portion of everything sold in the store that day, even the cafe, will go towards Mansfield Library. Let's see, then that same night, March 15th, I'll be speaking to the Fort Worth Ghost Group meetup. Then on April 12th, like I said, I'll be doing History, Haunts, and Legends. I think I might be doing another book signing March 29th that my publicist is working on, and then other stores and businesses around the square saying that they're wanting me to come into. So I'm going to be pretty busy for a while. I might be doing the North Texas Book Festival April 5th. I haven't confirmed that one yet, but...
You're going to be a busy girl. When are you going to fit in the ghost tours?
Well, at least that's why we have Boots. He's our other tour guide, too, so it's nice that, we can switch off and help each other out there.
So are you kind of marketing the book through the Ghost Tours Facebook, or have you set up something new for the book?
Both. Of course, the Facebook page for the Ghost Tours, facebook.com/Granbury Ghost. I mean, that Facebook.com/brand.
Nice. So, Eric, are we getting some freezing up? Because I'm seeing it in the chat room that it's kind of freezing up.
Yeah, we just did. I think I fixed it. Just keep going.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure. Because I heard some of what Brandy said, but not all. But hopefully it'll get it on the archives and you guys can go back and play it and figure it out. Plus, we'll start pushing some stuff to you. So, okay, how many chapters do we have in this book?
10 chapters.
10 chapters. And then when you broke the chapters up, how did you do that? Did you do that by different locations? Did you do it by different experiences? How did you do that?
Mostly locations. There's some where the main one that I can really say is that there's one chapter. It's mainly focused on this one store, Market on the Square, and that it's about the little faceless girl. But I actually kind of incorporated that with I kind of just do the west side of the square in that one chapter because it's several stores right along there that kind of go together about the little faceless girl, possibly a cowboy as well. So I kind of incorporated that into one chapter. But otherwise, pretty much all of them are one building per chapter because there's plenty of stories in the different buildings that, you can tell an entire chapter just on one building, like the Nut Hotel, the Jailhouse, the Langdon Center, the Opera House. And then I did the cemetery, and I talked about some of the historical background of some of the famous people buried in the cemetery, along with the ghostly experiences that we've had there as well, doing the tours and ghost hunt investigation.
Very cool. Very cool. So, who are some of the people that are famous that are buried out there in the cemetery? Kind of give us a hint.
Well, General Granbury, our town's namesake, is buried out there. He's along with a marker for his wife, who's unfortunately not with him. She's in an unmarked grave in Alabama. So that's an interesting little side note there. The grandson of David and Elizabeth Crockett from the Alamo, he's buried in the cemetery. His name is Ashley Crockett. He was one of the first newspaper publishers in the area. And our current newspaper is the direct descendant of the paper that he ran. And then, of course, there's the most famous one in the cemetery. The legend is that Jesse James is actually buried in the Granbury Cemetery. That it was actually another member of his gang that was killed in 1882 as a way of staging his death, and he actually escaped, moved here, and then he came back here when he was 103 to die, and so then he died in 1951 in Granbury and is buried here in the city cemetery.
See, and is there really any way to go back and research that in the history?
I did some with the background, and actually some of the stuff that I found with old newspaper articles. I mean, it's one of those we're never going to know for sure,
right?
But it is compelling evidence. The main one that I found was really interesting. It's an article about a woman that's claiming to be one of his family members, and that she claims that it was all set up through the Missouri, along with the Missouri governor, that he actually played a part in it. And that it was a man named Charlie Bigelow was the one that was killed in his stead, and that Jesse James himself actually was his own pallbearer at the funeral. That he was actually buried in kind of a quickie ceremony with no real death certificate issued. That basically the only reason that anyone knew that Jesse James had died was that the Missouri governor gave his word, and that because the Missouri governor, well, that apparently that the Missouri governor at the time. I'm not trying to libel anyone right now. I'm sure the Missouri governor now is perfectly fine. But that the Missouri governor at the time, that he had been a big campaigner saying that he was going to clean up all of the gang activity going on. And Jesse James' gang was high on the list. And then Jesse James actually gave a lot of campaign contributions to the governor anonymously. And then supposedly the night before he died, he sits him down and says, "Guess what? I gave you a whole bunch of money." And so he was kind of beholden to him. And so apparently they kind of cooked this up. And then Robert Ford, after Jesse James died, that Robert Ford got a full pardon from the governor and a large reward sum, but that some of that reward went back to the governor. So, I mean, it's actually kind of interesting that they have the whole possible scenarios situated, and, you know, it's not just like, oh, yeah, it's the fake guy that died, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's actually a legitimate possibility of some sort of underhanded doings going on.
That's kind of interesting. You know, it's funny because they say rumors get started from just a sliver of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes you wonder, you know, what really happened. I know Kim is saying in the in the chat room, I don't know if you're watching the chat room or not, we're being funny. But anyway, she's saying that they did DNA tests about Jesse James being buried in Missouri and that they came back inconclusive. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that right there alone, it's kind of like, it really does make you wonder, you know, was he sneaky enough that he did pull this off?
And then another interesting thing, and this is also in the book, that they did an exhumation order for Jesse James just a few years ago here in Granbury. And whenever they exhumed him, either through typographical error or what have you, that somehow the marker was above the wrong grave. So they wound up exhuming the wrong man. The reason why they knew it was the wrong man is the man they exhumed was missing an arm. And as far as they knew, Jesse James had both arms when he was buried. Well, it gets stranger because there actually is an arm buried by itself in the city cemetery. This is still in the book. And it's the arm of a man named William Henry Holland who lost it when he was 13. It's buried with the Holland family plot, but guess where William Henry Holland is buried? Right next to Jesse. Yeah. That whenever this had happened, his descendants didn't know where he was buried. They know where his arm was, but didn't know where the rest was. And so they were able to kind of put two and two together, so to speak. And they figured out that this was William Henry Holland, and so they were able to give him, you know, the proper reburial in his same spot, but with the proper headstone. And so it was able. We may never know if it really is Jesse James buried there, but at least someone, you know, claiming to be Jesse James is able to give another family some closure.
Yeah, that is crazy. So they were literally able to put his arm with his body and put him back, huh?
No, well, they didn't, you know, because the arm was already buried in the tomb, but they just put him back where they exhumed from. So he's still separated from his arm, but at least they know where he is now. At
least everybody knows where both parts are.
Yes, they are accounted for.
That's what they were asking in the chat room. Oh my gosh, did he get his arm back? Could you imagine, you know, you were armless before you died, but then, you know what? On the other side, you got your arm back.
Right. No, they didn't want to, I guess, go through a whole exhumation order to exhume an arm. So they figured, you know.
They're like, you know what? Label this A, label this B. Guys, put it together like puzzle pieces, we'll be fine.
Right.
That is hilarious. Okay, so we talk about like one of my favorite places, and Selena's in the chat room, so we're both like going at it back and forth. She's like, I'm dying to know what's said about me. I'm like, that you suck. I mean, we're going back and
do you really want to know?
How bad do you want to know, bud? How bad do you want to know? Guess we'll have to find the book to find out. So you had a lot of local teams really mentioned in the book too.
I try to do a lot more because, I mean, I talk a lot about my own personal ghost hunting experiences with my group, Research and Investigation of the Paranormal. But then, since I'm friends with so many other groups and I knew they've all come out here, I wanted to get as full of a story as possible, you know, and really enhance. Because there's only so much that we can tell on an hour-long tour. So I really wanted to expand and, you know, be able to delve a lot deeper, find out, you know, is there any more backstory of the ghosts that, you know, maybe that you found out that we didn't know about, and so really help enhance the story to show just how haunted the locations are. It's not just a couple people that have had experiences, but it's pretty much everyone that walks in the building, you know?
Yeah, it's not like it's just hit or miss. It's pretty much everybody has an experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody was telling me, I'm trying to think who I was talking to, that one of the stores on the square, God, I'm going to have to go back through and look at some of my stuff now. One of the stores on the square that's one of my favorite stores has some activity. Oh, I knew who it was now. There's a girlfriend of mine that actually worked in Granbury. And my favorite store out there is the Fudge Shop. Whose favorite store is it not?
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that there's actually some things that happen around the store out there, and that things get moved, things get found in different places, and that type of thing. And I thought, you know what? Every time I've been out there for fudge, I've been focused on the fudge that I haven't even thought about, am I picking up on anything around me? Right. So now I'm like, next time I go out there, I'm going to have to get some fudge and kind of troll around the store a little bit and see what I can, you know, what I can sense. But I did hear that from someone that actually worked in one of the, I guess there's an office behind the stores or something like that. And that's where she worked, and she was telling me about that when she worked in Granbury. And I thought, how wild, I go out there and I focus on the jail and I focus on the square, but, I've never really thought about the individual stores on the square. And you kind of go into a lot of that book.
Every store on the square has got something. Of course, people will say that they haven't really experienced some things in some places, but I'd be hard-pressed to say that there is I'd be willing to bet that there's something in at least every single one of the stores, and that actually our group said that their goal is to try to investigate every single store on the square.
Oh my gosh. Well, that would be nice. I mean, you have to have permission. Hey, what's going on with the Opera House? Did they ever get it back opened up after the remodel, or what's going on with it?
It's totally remodeled, totally revamped. It's gorgeous.
So have we heard any activity after the remodel?
I haven't heard anything. I've heard that it's kind of difficult to be able to get in there at the moment because they're trying to work on people and stuff. But I've heard they're kind of holding off on having other people bringing in equipment and stuff. So hopefully someone can get in there soon. But
yeah, I wondered after that big remodel, if there would be anything more or not.
I'm really eager with the London Center where I'm having the book signing on Saturday. We're actually going to be doing an investigation that night following the book signing. And that'll be our third one we've done there. And they're actually undergoing a remodel right now as well. So it'd be interesting. So.
That would be very cool. Very, very cool. So, I kind of teased you when we were talking the other day about writing a second book. So you've gone through this whole experience of wanting to write a book. You've written the first book. Let's say you've got somebody watching that's kind of where you were about a year ago thinking about writing a book. What advice would you give them after going through this whole entire ordeal for the first time before we even get to the book release? What kind of advice would you give somebody like that?
Just basically say if it's really what you want, don't give up hope, because it's a really tough thing to get into. Like I said, I just totally fell into it. It was complete luck that the publisher contacted me, and it's because that the woman with the publisher, that they're in South Carolina, by the way, and she happened to have a friend at UNT that they came on a tour one time, and so the friend recommended well, we went on a ghost tour, you should contact them.
Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
And so basically, as far as getting published, make a lot of connections. It's always, it's who it's, really get in. So make a lot of connections with authors, with people with publishers. Don't expect to get on with Simon & Schuster or, any of the big names. You'll want, especially if it's a ghost book, you'll want more of the niche publications, the one that they want to do these kind of books. This one is actually part of the Haunted America series. So they're a lot more likely to want to get ghost books, especially from various towns that maybe people haven't heard of, that sort of thing. And then as far as writing, it's just, what I did with my book was I, tell the ghost stories that are known, and I put some historical background along with it. I try not to make it too much because I'm trying to still focus on the ghosts and not make it a history book. But, I still try to put in some of the interesting tidbits of history that go along, that seem to coordinate some, or at least just to kind of give a background for it. And then I fleshed it out, so to speak, but by giving my own personal accounts of the ghost hunting investigations I've done, or also talking to the other ghost hunters, getting their personal accounts, and getting personal interviews of people that work in these different buildings. So a lot of it's not necessarily just, passing down lore. It's also, this showing that this is still actually happening, because it's people that are still currently working there have been experiencing things.
So when you were going on the square, I mean, you've had your own experiences there. You've done some investigating in some of these locations. When you're going around the stores and you're asking people, hey, I'm writing this book. I kind of want some of your experiences. I kind of want to hear your stories. Were they welcoming of that? Were they kind of standoffish? I mean, how did you approach some people? I mean, you've got some pull out there just from the tour, so it's like, was it something that was easy for you to do, or was it something that you were just like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can approach everybody?
No, actually, everyone's been very welcoming ever since we started the tour, because actually that's how we started doing the research for the tour itself. We literally, because when we got the idea for doing the tour, we knew a few, John Wilkes Booth, And so we literally just pounded the pavement going door to door asking people, have you experienced things in here? And we thought, if we get a few stories, yeah, that's great. But pretty much every place we went in, they're going, let me tell you what's happened to me. Or, they're all excited wanting to share their stories. And then so when I went back and was doing the book, again, like that, now that once they were so welcoming with the ghost tour, and now that they know me, it's even better. Oh my gosh, you're doing a book. That's awesome. It's going to be...
Yeah.
It's really going to put...
Sell it in our store?
Right, yeah. So, and especially because people were really excited thinking, want to tell me the story because, hey, they're going to get to be in a book now, too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really hard at all getting people to talk. I mean, had some people that, said, sorry, I haven't really experienced anything, can't help you. But then a lot of times they would say, I haven't experienced anything, but here's what I've heard someone else had, or give me the names of people to contact, that sort of thing.
So you still had some stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That is awesome. What else? I was going to ask you something else, and now it just slipped my mind. We were talking. So this is what happens when I do my show by the seat of my pants. And having just moved, I have no pen and paper. Normally, I write myself a note so I remember. It's just crazy.
Well, do you want me to give you a little treat and read you the segment that you're in?
Oh heck yeah! And then Selena's going to be all jealous, but that's okay.
I'll have to find. I'm sorry, Selena. Your section is a little bit shorter. I'll tell you with Selena that the part where I mention her is because there's a part in the Granbury Opera House chapter talking about people who were using a Ouija board, and so because I knew a lot of ghost hunters don't like using a Ouija board because it can open things, and so I asked Selena what her opinion was and why not to use a Ouija board versus, it's okay to use a camera sort of thing. So that's where I mentioned her is talking about the precaution of use a Ouija board at your own risk, but, we don't necessarily recommend it. So that's where Selena is. So I'm sorry.
Now we're going to tie Selena to Ouija boards. Do you hear that, Selena? You're now going to be the Ouija board girl. It's totally off of me now.
I also put that she's a so, okay. So here's the section that you're in. You're in with the jail. There's the jail picture.
My favorite place.
So here we go. We have DNS Paranormal is another ghost hunting group that frequents the historic Hood County Jail. Sherry Collins, one of the group's co-founders, shared with me one of the experiences that caused the jail to become her favorite place to investigate. Her group was using an old set of keys that were originally used by the jailers of Hood County. While Deegan Hodges, the other co-founder of the group, stood inside the main jail cell holding the keys, an unusual thing happened. Standing apart from the rest of the group, Hodges suddenly felt something touch his head, and shortly after, the keys began to sway in his hand. Collins described it, saying, it was like they were begging us to use the keys to communicate. The group happily obliged, and began questioning the spirits while Hodges held the keys dangling loosely from one finger. In response to the line of questions, the keys would begin swaying on their own. However, anytime Collins would say, stop, the keys automatically ceased all movement, as if they were being held tightly by an unseen hand.
It was so freaky that night. And I'm so glad we got that on video because I don't think anybody would have ever believed us. And that night is when I started getting interested in pendulums. And I have used a pendulum ever since. And I tell you what, it's one of those techniques that, when you're, and you've probably experienced this too, when you go out and you're ghost hunting or you're investigating, you're researching, you're looking for different tools to connect with and to find resources and get research and get evidence from. And I tell you what, I can always, if I sense something, I can always pull out my pendulum and get something. And I tie it back to being at the jail that night. I mean, that was just a pure accident. It's like we brought the keys up there for a trigger object. And Deegan's like, I'll hold them. And we're talking, heavy keys. They sit in the museum downstairs, guys, if you want to see these keys. They're not light by any means. They were the original keys. And when they started moving, we were just like, whoa. But we did a 13-minute session with those keys, and it was pretty unique there.
13.
So, yeah, that's definitely my favorite place ever. Ever. I think I've been there enough times now that the spirits probably are tired of me. I know I got one that like me. That's okay. That's okay. We didn't talk about fudge. We should have talked about some fudge in there too, right? Haunted Hungries or something like that.
They probably would have just been, mad that you're rubbing it in that I'm stuck in jail and you're eating fudge.
I'm eating fudge for you. This is peanut butter fudge. That's so funny. Fudge and fried pickles. Yes. Yes, see, they know me well in the chat room. They know me and my fried pickles. All the fun stuff. I've even walked around that square and played with the big rooster outside of Babes.
Oh, yeah.
All the fun stuff. So do you have like a whole, sometimes in books they'll give color pictures of some of the locations. So did you do that, or did you just include pictures with each location within their chapter?
Yeah, they're just, there's not a color section or anything. It's just, integrated with the chapter.
Chapters.
And so I mixed it. Most of the pictures I took myself of the current buildings and some of them inside. A couple of them have me in them while I'm doing a tour, so my mother took those pictures.
Well,
and then I also do. I did some historical photos as well. One man, Laurel Purple, he was kind enough to let me use his old photo album, and so there's a lot of vintage photos of the square back in the day. So it shows how there's one back in the 60s. You can see that well. The west side of it.
Cool. So did you include a map so that people can kind of place it, or are you drawing people in? They need to come find on their own?
No, I didn't think of doing a map, but thanks for but no, what I do though is each place, I'll say maybe what's there now, but I also try to give the address of each location as well, because I've noticed what can be a problem is historical books. They'll say something about, this is where such and such grocery is now. Well, that book was published in 1970. That grocery is there.
So there. Yeah.
So I try not to date the book too much, where people, in 30 years from now, if people still want to read my book, that, that they can still know the different places I'm talking about. So
they can also have your stories, in 30 years to go back if they're really researching and doing their work. They're going to see from your book. Okay, well, she said it was this address. Oh, wow, did you know that used to be a dress shop or a fudge shop or a real estate agency or whatever?
Right, so I may talk about the businesses there because, it's hard not to mention the businesses there, of course. Yeah. But I tried not to make it that that's the only way you can know what that building is. Right. So that way everyone can know. The address is probably not going to change, so at least that, there's a more standing location. And that way, if people are really wanting to see a map, they can, look at it and map it out that way.
Very nice. So tell us some stories that you heard about Nut House Hotel. I've heard that place is crazy active.
Oh, yes. Well, the common belief is that it's haunted by the ghost of a lady named Mary Lou Watkins. She is actually a direct descendant of the Nutt family, hence the name Nut House. The Nutt family opened there were two brothers that opened a mercantile business in that area in 1866. And then the current building was built in 1893 in that same location. And then they had a younger brother named David Lee Nutt, and Mary Lou Watkins is the granddaughter of David Lee Nutt. So, and she was prominent she was prominent in the 1960s, but kept going up until her death. That she was a major part of the revitalization campaign of the downtown square in the 60s. She pretty much single-handedly refurbished the entire town square on her own. She's the one that got it all going, inspired everyone. She's the reason why we have all the historical plaques on the square. She's the reason why we're listed in the National Register of Historic Places. She was a go-getter, getting things done. And she was so loved by the town that she actually has her own statue dedicated to her. You can actually see her across the street from the hotel wearing her period garb that she wore at her restaurant, and she was ringing her bell because she would always let people know that supper was on the table after she finished cooking. Nice old-fashioned, country cooking. So she passed away in 2001, but we believe that she loved the place so much. It was
still there.
Yeah, she's still there. She's, Melinda Ray owns the building now, and she said that she's never felt anything malevolent, anything in there. It's Mary Lou. She's family basically. And my mother and I actually used to work there at another restaurant where it closed down a couple of years, 3-4 years ago, and we encountered Mary Lou almost on a daily basis. She actually was what inspired us to start the tour. People would always come in asking, oh, I hear it's haunted. Tell us the stories. And one time we were talking to a couple ladies that were sitting there at the bar, and they'd say, well, does Granbury have a ghost tour? It should. So yeah, so I like to say even after her death, Mary Lou Watkins is still helping Granbury business prosper. But
that's wild.
Right. So yeah, like my mother's seen her several times walking up the staircase. My mother heard her laughing from the other room. Cabinet doors would open by themselves. And this is all downstairs. Currently it's shops downstairs. And then upstairs is the actual hotel. And it is still a working hotel. Great place to stay. And check out room 4 if you really want something. But there's pretty much...
I've not been able to stay there.
Right.
But Celine and I are sitting here talking about it in the chat room, how she stayed there, and we're talking about the breakfast there and that kind of stuff. I'm like, every time I go, I've never coordinated enough to stay there, so I need to do that.
Right. Yeah, at least there's something in every room. So even if you don't get room 4, it doesn't mean you're not necessarily going to get something. But room 4 seems to be the most common one, and that is named the Mary Lou Watkins Suite. So I don't know if maybe she just has an affinity for that room since it's named after her. But yeah, that one time they said that a couple ladies were staying there, and around 4:30 in the morning, one of them gets woken up, and someone is very firmly shaking her shoulder. And her friend is still asleep next to her, so it's not her friend that's shaking her shoulder. So she wakes her friend up, and they're laying there going, okay, what's going on? When the room gets ice cold, and there's knocking all over the walls.
Oh my gosh.
And then we actually had a couple that was staying there. They were telling us, this is just 2-3 weeks ago maybe, that they were staying there in room 4. And the only thing that was weird, but it seems kind of interesting, is that they were laying there in bed, it's all silent, and then all of a sudden they hear a sound. And what is that? And they're so they kind of put it out and go to sleep. They wake up the next day and they're trying to, figure out what it could be. And finally, they discover that one of the dresser drawers, that it's got a little latch thing on it, and that basically if you pull it up and then let it drop, it makes that exact same noise.
Oh my gosh! Somebody was trying to get my drawers.
Yep. And the drawer was open a little bit too, so that's how they were able to notice it. So
awesome.
I don't know if she's being a snoop or putting away the clean linen, but
she's just like, look, you can put your stuff up. Here's a
right. This place is a mess. But yeah, so I know my group has investigated. I was not there because I was living in North Carolina at the time. So as said, they were telling me the stuff that one thing was kind of interesting. It shows how hospitable Mary Lou is. That of course, in an investigation, you aren't supposed to have AC on or anything. You have to turn everything off. Well, they were discussing about, of course, being hot there, and they would, be in one room, leave the room, come back later, and the ceiling fan's turning.
Oh my gosh! She's like, so you need some air.
Yeah, so she's helping out. Hey, I don't want my guests to be uncomfortable. So.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's awesome though.
Right.
I like the older towns that have the history behind them. It seems like, when I first got into ghost hunting, it was more about having the experience and going out there and finding something. But now it's like, I like the places that have some history behind them, have some meat, to it, and going out and looking at stuff. And it's intriguing, especially when you've got a city with a square around a courthouse.
We got personality here,
Yeah, it's really got some, you can sink your teeth into it. It's got some meat in it. And people, there's always been the argument, even at the jail, about how, yes, they do have what's called, the hanging gallows, but it's never been used.
Right.
And people still, I laugh because I read where people are like, oh yeah, they used to do hangings there. They did? Really? Have you done your history?
Right.
Have you read it? Because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I put that in the book too. There was only one official execution taking place in Hood County. Sure, there were probably a few unofficial ones, but I don't know about that. But there was only one official one, and it was actually done before that jail was built. It was whenever it was the log cabin jail, and so it was done at a tree near the cemetery. Kind of disputed which tree. I put a picture in there that some people say is a hanging tree, but other people believe it's another tree that's no longer there on the other side of the cemetery. But it was actually an 80-year-old man who was probably innocent. and it was kind of like a Hatfield and McCoy situation. But I put that story in the book, too, as a little kind of a background thing of showing just how... Because we were kind of a Wild West, very Wild West kind of town. You can just picture John Wayne and that sort of stuff here. We were the place for the outlaws. We were the place for, where it would get, wild and woolly. So, we had an air of lawlessness going, but that really helped set the scene for, the ghost stories and what we have today.
Well, and all the, again, all the history behind it. So how did you, it's easy to come up with all the in-between pages and the filler stories and all of that. So you're kind of, your mind's racing, you know what you want to put in the book, you're pulling it all together. At what point did you sit down and you were finally like, okay, this is how I want to start the book?
I didn't really write it in order. I usually, I wrote the introduction and, I wrote the introduction first, but then I would just, because I had it mapped out what buildings I was going to do, so which chapters. And so basically it would just be as I got, I finished all of my research on each building, then I'd say, okay, I've got enough, because I would have it down to, okay, these are the people I want to talk to about this, and this is what I want to look at. So, some people, it would be, I wasn't, playing phone tag or something, that I wasn't able to get a hold of the different people I needed until later, so that was a later chapter. So I would just kind of do it chapter by chapter, say, okay, I've got enough on this, and then that way you can, because I had a minimum word count too, that was kind of stressing me out. I had a 35,000 word count minimum, and I'm
sure you're watching your word count going, I need to add 20 more words.
I'm like, add and of there, And so because I'm thinking, oh yeah, 35,000 words. I'm a loudmouth. Sure, I can make it. And I'm going, I'm only up to 10,000 words. How do I do this?
Right. Not until you start counting the words that you're like, really?
Yeah, surely that's got to be more words than that. But so that's whenever I go back and say, okay, well this chapter is quite a bit shorter than others, so see what I can do on this to even it out, flesh it out more, and also first I would just try to get the stories down. And, then I would go back in and say, okay, how can I really expand this out, set the scene, get a creepier mood to it, draw it out a little more so it's not just, and then a ghost walked by, and then this happened. Right, yeah. So it's all about, just really expanding, come up with the description of the setting and the people and all that. So it's really just about getting the bare bones down first, and then see where you need to add on top of that.
So if you read your introduction first, and you finished all your chapters, did you find yourself going back to put some more meat to your introduction later?
Yeah, I was editing constantly throughout the whole thing, and I would add in, because in the introduction I have where basically, how we started the tours, and then experiences that I've had while on the tours, and that sort of thing. And so then as I would come up with, oh yeah, I forgot this thing happened too, so I'd write it in there.
Got it in there.
Yeah.
So you kind of working like on every little section all at once, and then it's like, oh, I need to go add that to this, and I need to add that to this. So let me ask you this. Do you remember when we were in high school how, in English we had to write that just dreaded English paper? Do you remember having to do all that?
Mm-hmm.
How would you compare that to writing your book? Which one gave you just I just want to shoot something right now. I can't get it all together.
Well, this one makes me more nervous because with the English paper, you have to impress one person.
Yes.
With this book, it's now going to be in the court of public opinion. So, now it's going to be anyone that wants to read it can, have their criticisms on it. So this one, you had to have your ducks in a row a lot more, because with an English paper, you can, take your 95 and move on or whatever.
Right.
But with
I'm gone. I'm out of here.
Yeah. With this one, it's going to be out there in perpetuity, and it's going to be where anyone can read it and anyone can judge on it. They can write reviews on it. So,
it's
more
a tough grade.
Yeah. At least it helped where, I was supposed to do a certain format, but, with the research papers, they're so picky. You got to format it this way, but at least with this
you have your outline and your postcard. Yeah. You're just like, did I get a picture of that place and do I like it?
Exactly. So at least that made it a little bit easier, but you still have to have your ducks in a row a little bit more because, at any time anyone can be judging what you're writing and say that's not right, or and I'm sure there's probably a good chance that something in there isn't right, but it's all from what I tried any of the history. Yeah. So and at least they even put a little disclaimer in here saying about that this is right to the best of our knowledge, sort of thing. But that's what I try to do, at least with the historical background stuff. I try to make sure that any of my historical background, I found some sort of article or something to back it up. And I have a bibliography at the back, too, and it's pretty extensive. So I tried to make sure everything was, the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, I think, I'm really creative, and I can market, and I can do that kind of stuff. If I had to sit down and write a book, I'm just trying to think, I didn't have a hard time in school doing those English papers, but I think to me a book is like 10 times that, and I'm lucky to get just the one done.
Right.
So I couldn't imagine, I bet you'd probably be laying in bed at night asleep, and all of a sudden be like, oh, I need to go add this in, or, did you find yourself doing those little moments at, odd times when you're like trying to get a break away from the book and do something else?
Well, I always tend to do a lot of my writing when I'm laying in bed trying to sleep. That's whenever, your mind's kind of wandering. And so I would actually, I'll be laying there and I'm like, okay, now I've got this chapter started, all right. I'm actually
you can see it.
Yeah, so that it helps because your mind's kind of clear, so you're able to run with the different thoughts instead of in the middle of doing something and being distracted. So, yeah, I would come up with things where it's like, I gotta remember and talk to this person or add it in or whatever.
See, that would drive me crazy. I'm such a notes person that I'd probably be laying there with a recorder. I gotta remember to talk to so-and-so. I gotta do oh, you know what, and I'm so ADHD.
I write lists.
Sorry for the person having to go back and review my notes.
I write lists and think, okay, who all do I need to talk to still? And then cross it off. Okay, talk to this person, talk to this person. Of course, even now that the book's out, there's different times I'm kicking myself going, oh, I wish I'd taken a picture of this, or I wish I'd have put this in instead. And it's like, the book's already out, so, But,
well, now you just gotta focus on your second one, see? Right? We gotta get that one. We gotta get you past the first one, though.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a few minutes left in the show, so let's go ahead and for, those of you that may have joined a little bit late, or those of you that are watching the archive and you were, like, too intrigued by our stories to pay attention, let's go ahead and tell everybody again. The book signing's this weekend. It's on Saturday. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can come find you.
It's Saturday, February 22nd from 6 to 9 p.m. It's at the Langdon Center at 308 East Pearl Street in Granbury. It's a large white old house that's used for cultural exhibits and that sort of thing. And that will kick off the month-long Haunted Granbury photo exhibit, but I'll only be there on Saturday for the book signing. The event is free to attend, and then the book will retail for $19.99 or $21 with tax.
Awesome. And there's going to be books there to buy, right?
Yes.
And then if everybody misses that opportunity to come buy the book, where else can I find it?
Well, it's already available for pre-order on Amazon. Granted, if you want to sign it on Saturday, you won't get it in time if you order on Amazon. But because if you order on Amazon, it will ship on the 25th, because the official release date is the 25th. So if you want it early, come on Saturday. But so you can. It's on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, all of that. It will also be in stores. My publicist is working on figuring out which stores. I know probably several stores on the square will be carrying it. The Nut House shops probably will, because she's talked to me about definitely wanting to carry those. It's going to be in Barnes & Noble as well. Don't know exactly which ones, because it's just area ones. I'm assuming maybe the Hewlin one, because that's the closest, but, it's iffy. So as I find out that information, I'll be posting that on the website and Facebook. Facebook is facebook.com/Haunted Granbury. And so that'll keep you updated on everything. So as I know it, you'll know it on Facebook.
Awesome. Lots of stuff for you. I know this was like such a big thing when you started. I remember just kind of sensing it out of you. You were just so excited but so stressed. And now it's like, okay, you're done with that part. Now let's just enjoy it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like the last few days before my deadline going, I gotta write. Can't think of anything else but writing, Got 7 hours.
Words. More words.
7 hours to write 15,000 words. How am I going to do this?
You just start using Dragon Speak and you just start talking to it and you're watching the word count instead of typing.
Right. No, I've never been able to do that. I need to actually feel the keys on my fingers.
You have to feel the keys. See, I'd probably be that anal too. I'd probably have to be like, okay, you're just not going fast enough for me here.
Right. I'm silly just talking to the computer, So.
Hey, you know what? I talk to my couch and my computer. I talk to everything, so I wouldn't feel too bad about it. I just might not want to admit it so much. I wouldn't want to be too much. Well, all right. So we've got the book release party. We've got the book coming out next week. You guys get a copy of this book. I think it's going to be awesome. If you haven't investigated Granbury, you've got to read the book and you've got to get out to some of these locations. I mean, there's so much rich history there, and there's lots of good places to eat. You know, I probably should start buying stock in the fudge shop as much as I talk about Granbury. But I've got to get back out there and get me some more fudge and stay at the hotel and go back to the jail and visit my buds there, my spiritual buds there. So anyway, well, I wanted to thank you for being on the show. Good luck with the book release party on Saturday. If we can make it out there, we're going to be out there. Just with moving and everything, it's just so crazy. But I do want to be there to support you. I think this is just awesome for you.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So
it is going to be a lot of fun. Well, thanks again for being on the show. You guys look her up, and I'll put a link out on the DNS page as well as my Facebook page, too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next week on the show, I have no idea what we're going to do. I really don't. I've been so busy with moving and packing that I just haven't done my schedule. So I am thinking if I can get Badass talked into it, we might actually do, I don't know, we might go do a live investigation. I don't know. Depends on what suits me after this weekend. We might have a guest on, we might not. I should do numerology next week, Robin. You know what? I might just fly by the seat of my pants next week. We'll just have to see what happens next week. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. We want to say thanks, a big thanks out to Jeremy Jones out at Paranologies. He's actually working on some really cool stuff behind the scenes. The focus teams and the focus groups have been able to look at this. You guys are going to be amazed with some of the stuff that he's thinking about coming out. So take a look at his inventory, take a look at some of his equipment. You guys get out there and buy it. It's some badass stuff, especially the new periscope. I know Bud will back me on that as well. So get out there and get you at least, at a minimum, get a periscope. I'm still waiting to try to get our TriCam upgraded, so I'm excited about that. And then I want to give a shout out to Scott Frederick, who's been doing some more photography, I noticed, just not as much in the urbanesque type of stuff, but he's been doing some really cool photography, so you guys check him out as well. So until next week, I'm going to try to survive unpacking, getting this house settled, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Peace out.
Yes,
I was thinking it was like a Chamber of Commerce or something like that for some reason.
It's kind of like that, but I mean, it's for all all of Granbury. They have people come in, they can promote their things, and then it also broadcasts sports games and city council meetings and stuff like that.
Boring stuff. Nothing's as exciting as what you've got going on. So, what does everybody think about in Granbury about this book that's coming out?
They seem pretty excited. Pretty much everyone we've told about it has been really happy about it, and I keep saying that if I already started selling the books to people that wanted to buy them now before the book signing, I would probably not really have any left for the book signing.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Crazy. So tell us a little bit about the book, and I know you've been working on it for a while now. Some stories together and all that. Kind of take us back to the beginning and tell us how this got started.
Okay, well, this is the book right here, Haunted Granbury. And then the back cover there. And then the inside, a little sneak peek for you. But
too fast.
Well, you got to buy it to look at it closer. Well, I'm the co-founder of the Granbury Ghosts and Legends tour, and I'd been wanting to write a book for a while. Even when we first started, I wanted to, but just kind of put it off, busy doing other things. And then I found a little advertisement for another publisher saying that they were looking for people to write ghost stories, ghost books about their community. So I sent them, right. So I sent them an email, all excited, and they write back going, Granbury's just not a good enough market to do a book for. We had someone pitch it before, and they turned it down. And I said, well, no,
Welcome to DNS Live. We're coming to you from our new studio. I love saying that. That's so funny. Anyway, we're on tonight. It's going to be a crazy night. We finally got internet connected today, and it's just been a crazy, crazy day for me. You're going to hear some noise in the background for a little bit. we're still getting some stuff moved around and getting settled in the new place. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the show tonight. We've got Brandy Herr on. She is now going to be an infamous author. I love it. She has written a book called Haunted Granbury, and so we're going to talk about that tonight. You guys can't get it just yet because the book release isn't until this weekend, but you guys need to be looking for this book. So, Brandy, how you been? Is she having a hard time hearing me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're breaking up there. So.
I don't know if it's my connection.
Okay. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? So you excited about this?
Busy, but that's good.
I hear you. I hear you. You getting a little nervous yet?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you are. How many shows have you done this week already to start pushing your book?
This week, you're the first one. I did one last week before. It was a radio show, but you're my first one this week. And then, I did an actual, the local radio this morning. But.
Well, and I saw you did a little tidbit. Was it with one of the Granbury?
Yeah. It's a Granbury TV. It's the local Granbury. may be a small town, but not only are we a close-knit town, but we're right here by the DFW Metroplex. And, you know, with me running the tours, I have people coming all over the state, all over the country. I've had people all over the world come on the tours. And so she writes back, oh, well, you can go ahead and write up a proposal, and, you know, we'll try pitching it to them, but he's probably going to say no. And so I was going to write up a proposal, but kind of got discouraged, got busy. And then about a month later, the History Press, another publisher, contacts me just out of the blue, says, hello, would you like to write a book about the ghost of Granbury? So I said, okay, great, yeah. And I still had to do the proposal, you know, make it formal, make sure, you know, they approved it. But, you know, it went through, and it turns out, from what I understand, this is actually a better publisher than the one I originally approached. Because this one does a lot more promotions, does a really great book. So, you know, they're a loss, I guess. But I'm really happy with it. And the History Press has been really great to me, helped me work through with getting the pictures, and they've done a really great formatting job. They're the ones that actually put together this cover. I took the picture of the courthouse, actually, but they're the ones that stylized it.
So they did all that for you.
They did, yeah. I just submitted, it was just a regular picture of the courthouse that, you know, taken during the day, just, you know, that I submitted to them. And then they're the ones, they made the little light there, they, you know, they stylized the whole thing. And then I submitted this picture right here with the angel. This was taken by Mary Vinson of the Hood County News. She was kind enough to let me use this picture because I love it. It's just perfect. It's taken from the cemetery with a view of the courthouse. And then I also took this picture of the Nut House Hotel. And then again, they just formatted it all. So, I mean, they did all the great stylizations, and they've been a really great company to work with.
That's awesome.